Thank you, Chairman. This is actually a pretty interesting debate. First of all, this is a good bill. We should support this measure for a number of reasons. Number one, I'm glad that the members are bringing up the 14th Amendment. This is actually quite critical because at the writing of the 14th Amendment, even though its thought has been expanded to encapsulate many things in American society, the original premise of the 14th Amendment was for black slaves who were no longer slaves and now were dual citizens of the United States. So then, if you're gonna now go towards the act of apportionment, yeah, they have to be counted because now they are citizens of the United States because slavery was at an end. That is the purpose of the 14th. The issue we're facing in America today is not that you have people who have come to the United States either A, illegally, or B, through what I would call abuses of federal law by President Biden coming into the United States in massive amounts. If you count them for the apportionment base, they are not citizens of the United States. They do not have the legal authority to vote in our elections in the United States, yet we are going to count them for the purposes of setting congressional districts in the United States? That makes no sense. The bill is clear. People are still counted if they're not citizens, but they are not used in the calculation for setting apportionment. And that is a key distinction. To my colleague on the other side who mentioned that inaccurate counts lead to things, they impact schools, they impact hospitals, they impact benefits in local communities and in states all through the country. That's correct, which is why we shouldn't go down the pathway of importing millions of people into our country, either ignoring federal law, flouting federal law. We should not do that because it does impact the communities in our country in negative ways. There are young kids in the United States who are not getting the education they deserve because now you have other children in these classrooms who have less education or no education and don't even speak English, or in a lot of respects, even Spanish. They speak other languages. And so now resources are having to be moved around from those kids who are United States citizens. These are major implications.
Sir, will you yield for a question?
Hold on, I got a couple points to make, and I'll yield to a question. You have Denver, Colorado. 5% of Denver's population is now made up of illegal immigrants. They are overwhelming the hospital system in Denver, Colorado. So yes, when you have these actions from a chief executive who is not faithfully executing immigration and border security law, he is not. When that happens, there has to be a response from Congress, which is where Section 5 of the 14th Amendment does come into play. This is a good piece of legislation because what we cannot have now is the precedent where you just have massive flows of people being brought to us by the drug cartels and by the coyotes. Let's be honest about what's happening. And then we say we're now going to use that to be the basis for accounting and allowing for apportionment of congressional districts when these same people cannot vote. They cannot. So this is a good bill. We should support this bill. And what we should not do is, frankly, gaslight the American people into thinking that we are now somehow changing apportionment, because even the framers of the Constitution or the writers of the 14th Amendment would have never allowed for non-citizens to this massive amount to be counted for the purposes of setting congressional districts. And I would say the ranking member spoke to that when he did talk about the history of the 3/5 compromise at the onset of the United States Constitution. I'll yield to a question.
Thank you. Look, I think we can have a debate about immigration and what proposals are, and I agree nobody wants just endless flows of folks that we can't actually manage and control. Nobody's arguing for that. But we have to understand that in this country, the counting of every single person impacts every single type of government service that's provided through the states and through cities. So what you're really arguing about is that young kids in classrooms, or seniors that are in hospital beds, or people that are trying to recover from massive pandemics and emergencies would not get support because they wouldn't be counted through the one system that our government uses to provide public services to all people in this country. So regardless of how a child may have
Mr. Garcia, I got to reclaim my time because I got 15 seconds to respond. The bill allows for the count. You're just not counted in the base for apportionment.
Except
and and that's a clear delineation from the argument that you were making. We cannot make people fill out the census. We do not have the police powers to do so.
And this would make less people fill the census.
Mr. Garcia,
So
I yielded to you, but now I'm a fan.
No, you're right, you're right.
We do not have police powers to make people fill out the census. We have American citizens who do not fill out the census. We have to do the right thing when it comes to apportioning congressional districts, because that does impact the representation of the American people, the voting population, the citizens of the United States, and frankly, people who are in our country illegally or do not have citizenship status do not also have the ability to impact the political nature of the United States. That flies in the very basis of representative republic and a representative democracy. I yield.
Gentlemen, time's expired.